Hey guys, welcome back. You're listening to the Ancient Health Podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you join us today. And I'm personally really interested in the conversation that we're going to have because we're talking all things beauty. And I feel like we haven't really had a recent conversation around clean beauty, but products that really work. Because if you're like me, so if the male audience, not that you're disqualified from this, but a lot of women here, we need to have products that work and we also value our health. So I think that there is this tension between what can I buy that's really clean, but what also can I buy that I know is going to work? And so we have an expert with us today who has a phenomenal line of products, but even more than that, she is a chemist. And so she's deeply involved in the materials, the raw materials used to produce products that really perform, the ones that you're actually going to use and love the effects of and just the overall wear of. So we have Jane Graves. If you are familiar with Lux Beauty, she is the founder. She is the formulator. She's the brains behind it. So I'm so thrilled to have her here with us today. Jane, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and especially that, your health, alignment and goals are so in line with mine. And I appreciate that so much, that you're into holistic living and that our bodies, expose all these toxins and they do accumulate. So we need to do our part to eliminate that exposure, but also feel really good about the products that we're using.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm fighting the good fight in my own home right now because I have 3 girls, but 2 of which are getting in like the preteen years. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like kids in that age group of like 12 to 14, like their hobby is skincare. Like they honestly, that's all they watch videos of. They love using products. I'm like, you don't need it, but it's not even that they're trying to look a certain way. They just have fun with the products. So I'm constantly kicking things out of the house because their friends bring stuff over. And I'm like, oh gosh, we cannot be putting this stuff on a developing young girl. Like I wouldn't use it, but I certainly don't want to use it on a child that's 12, 13 years old, just developing. So I would love to get the origin story behind Lux and what really brought you into this space. And then really we can go from there. But I know that there's going to be so much value in just understanding your personal investment in having good, clean products.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I can completely relate. Like I started babysitting at 12 so that I could go to the drugstore and buy products. We didn't have TikTok and Instagram to see all this stuff in front of us. I had 17 magazines. But I was obsessed. I think maybe it's just a part of like a girl growing up wanting to take care of herself, like thinking she's not enough and wants to be prettier. I don't know, but I absolutely totally relate. And I actually so happy that like girls can have Lux Beauty because I wish that we had that. I mean, you probably use like apricot scrub that, scrub on your face for like lip smackers. And so I, was traditionally trained in science. I say I'm educated in science, but rooted in nature. And I never made a connection that our skin is our largest organ and that it's part of our detox system. And it was, I got my degree in biology and chemistry with doing the pre-med route, was studying biofilms and bacterial swarming and published in that field. And, I loved it. I'm such a science nerd, but my life turned in a completely different direction. And I was catapulted into this holistic spiritual journey with my mom, who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And that just changed everything and the trajectory of my life. And really details, they don't matter, but I say them because I want people to understand that when you're given a health, like a scare of, she was told she had 4 months to live, and her tumor was the size of a basketball, her uterus, cervix, appendix, colon. I mean, it was huge. And so what looked like a really step back, doctors can't do anything because it's around major blood vessels. She did 1 round of chemo, 1 round of radiation. It didn't work. And it's like, you have 4 months to live, get your affairs in order. And I was like, whoa. And I say this because number one is I believe God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle. And finding strength in moments that are so scary, losing, a loved one, at the thought of that is just so scary. So I just became so laser focused on there's another way. And so with that, I mean, we did so many modalities But that's when I was like, the light bulb moment went off, and it was like my rosy colored glasses went off and was like, toxins, I work in a chemistry lab, and it's like, you're smelling this, benzene, you don't make a connection, but I made the connection. And so it was about creating this non-toxic healing environment for her, that all of her energy could go to shrinking the tumor. And within 4 months, her tumor had shrunk to the size of a grapefruit. And so it is possible. And I always say, may Lux Beauty be a beacon of light, to remind us to have faith, to have hope, believe in miracles, and that, to believe in the power of love. Because I just devoted all of my time and energy to my mom, and I was already in research mode because I just graduated and I was studying for the MCAT and worked in a microbiology lab. So it's just, to me, it was such a spiritual experience. So then I couldn't go back to using the products I'd been using before. And it was really easy. I say, like, not easy, but it's kind of like when you realize all these toxins accumulate. And I like Dr. Jill Carnahan, because she says, we're all born with a different bucket size. Some of us have a big bucket that we can handle a lot of toxins, and it doesn't manifest as much in disease, but then some people have a smaller bucket. So it just was very clear to me that when someone's dealing with something so drastic as stage 4 cancer, you have to eliminate as many toxins. So, I was able to do get rid of the Teflon and all the plastic. And that's why Lux Beauty products are in glass, because I'm very anti-plastic. And I know it has its place. We can't be completely plastic free. But so when I went to look for skincare, it was exactly what you said, is like trying to find skincare that actually is effective, that actually does something to your skin and doesn't have those compromising ingredients, is so challenging. I tried the all organic, but it's filled with cheap oils. From the get-go, I said, I don't want cheap oils in my products. I want premium oils such as raspberry seed oil, rosehip oil, sea buckthorn. And so I just was like, I don't want a bunch of alcohol on my skin. It strips your skin barrier, can have kind of havoc on your microbial skin health. And so I just couldn't find what I was looking for. So it was one of those things where, at a necessity, I said, well, I'm going to have to create it, because, I can't use these products I found. I was at the time, and I admit, I'm embarrassed now because I know better, is I was using dermatologist compounded products from my dermatologist. And I never looked at the ingredients. And then I looked at yours, like, I can't use these anymore. Short term in your 20s, yeah, you can get away with a lot of things. Your skin is turning over really fast. But, if you have, say, I had some acne here and perioral dermatitis. So, you just will do anything for that to go away, because, you're just very self-conscious. So I just say, I just couldn't find what I was looking for. I wanted high vibrational premium ingredients, but I want to see results, because, we all work really hard for our money. The last thing you want to do is or it's marketed to you like, oh my God, it's going to do this, it's going to do this. And then it's so disappointing.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, that's such an incredible story about your mom. I'm interested, reducing that toxic burden seemed to really move the needle. Was there anything else that you feel like was significant in her healing journey? Because that's quite the testimony to get that kind of diagnosis, that kind of outcome, and then having such radical healing. I know that we have a lot of people that seem like they're in hopeless situations. And so I'm curious if there was anything else that you feel like really moved the needle for her healing.
Yeah. So she did a lot. I found her a holistic MD. So she got intravenous mistletoe therapy, intravenous vitamin C. It was just like a myriad of things that we did. Moving to all organic. I love enzyme therapy. Once the tumor is breaking down, you got to have the enzymes. So using enzyme therapy, if people call my mom, a lot of times my mom was like an advisor to people that have been diagnosed, because it can be such a disempowering experience. You can be told you have 4 months to live, and then you go home and you have this just like a doctor told me that, you have 4 months to live, and I feel so bad for people. And it hurts my heart that happens. I don't believe anyone can tell someone how long they have to live. That is up to God and your spiritual path. So So wheatgrass. So when people call my mom and ask her, there's a lovely family, and the wife had cancer about 30 years ago, breast cancer. And Tom, who's now, I think he's 86, 87, he had prostate cancer, and he is a farmer. And it's called dynamicgreens.com.
Okay.
And my mom was on 18 ounces a day. She was, it was like, alkaline that body. I still today take the wheatgrass. The cool thing is I feel like going on this journey with my mom impacted my life so much because I live holistically, and I'm so wise about, what I choose and how I live. And you're still taking the wheatgrass today, understanding like the power of enzymes, and herbs. I use herbs in all of my formulas because they're so healing and our body recognizes them and knows how to take them in and where to use them.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. Are you talking about like proteolytic enzymes, like the serapeptase, nattokinase, those kinds? Okay.
Yeah.
I did another podcast. I'm not sure if it's released yet, but, it was with Dr. Motley, my co-host, and we were talking about the power of enzymes because it really is. When you're talking about clearing out, fibrin and proteins and even things like you said, like tumorous stuff, it's like that's the stuff that really targets and goes after it. I love that. That's so incredible. So this is such a story. I'm just like blown away. And I feel like I love hearing about something that gets birthed, whether it's a product or a therapy or whatever it is, that like a system that gets created that's birthed from a place of like real personal testimony. I think that just speaks to not only like the quality, but also just like what your personal mission is and getting things to people that are meaningful, that work for them. That's not just a marketing funnel, like you said, which many of us are just kind of over it. I feel like we've never lived in a time where I feel like I have been so targeted for stuff. And I'm like, I just don't want it. Like, I don't want to see the ads. I don't want, but these personal stories are relatable. Like, this is what people want to hear because this is real life. Like, this is, you were looking for solutions and something was birthed out of this. So as far as the skincare industry goes, obviously, like the toxins, the processing, the materials are a huge problem. What about that? Or maybe it's not that specifically. Do you feel like is probably the greatest alarm? Like it's something that you feel like is really alarming that people need to be aware of as they're navigating, because it's so saturated. And I think, there's just no regulations around labeling. So it's like, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you never know. And it's just, I think the industry just doesn't look at our skin as our largest organ, and a lot of people like to think, oh, what you put on your skin doesn't absorb, but I will look at hormone patches, look at nicotine patches, our skin does respond. And the main thing is that it is our largest organ. It's part of our detox system. So the last thing you want to be doing is adding more toxins to it. But it's also, I love glass, and we talk about BPA, but then there's BPS, it got replaced with BPS. And so the industry, and it's so hard for people to navigate. I'm able to, because I'm this mad scientist looking at things. Sunscreen is a whole other rabbit hole. I'm not going to go into all the details, but it's a multi-billion-dollar business. And I think, looking at, say, every day when we think of skin protection, the first thing you think of is what?
Oh, like sunscreen?
Yeah. So the first thing people say, if you want to protect your skin, you've got to wear sunscreen every day, all day. Don't you dare go out in the sun without sunscreen. And then people are like, you don't wear sunscreen? I'm like, no, because, I've done my research and I haven't found one that I like. And so I look at, let's look at the details, so majority of your audience would use zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. Okay. And those are going to block the UV, which is about 4 to 5% of the rays, and particularly blocks vitamin, so vitamin D. So when you block when you block UVB, it is turning off your warning signal. UVB is what turns our skin red. And so when it's like cutting the wires in your car to say, look, Courtney, you've had enough sun now. I'm telling you, your skin is turning red because you've used up all of your antioxidant reserves. So you need to get out of the sun now. Yeah. But when you block that UVB, you have cut that warning signal. The body's always speaking to us, always responding. And then also UVB is what makes vitamin D3 sulfate. And so then we're blocking that. And vitamin D3, people say, well, I could just supplement. Well, it's not the same. We may need it for our hormones and circadian rhythm. Like you just need it for just balancing our body. But also, which no one talks about, is about 47% of the solar radiation is infrared rays. Now, infrared rays is what goes all the way down. So you have the epidermis, the dermis, and then the hypodermis. Now, no one really talks about this because there's no product that's going to help this and there's no industry. So we don't want to tell you about it. So the thing is, the skin is our protector, and infrared is one of those stressors. But we also have blue light from our phones, our TV, and pollution. We have EMS. We have all these assaults now on our skin. And then we have infrared rays that are going deep down, affecting the mitochondria and also our collagen health. And it can, break down our collagen. So say, well, what do you do then? But the cool thing is, why I say I'm always rooted in nature is I look to nature for the answers. And the solution is, and I look to algae. So algae is super sensitive to UV, and they create something called astaxanthin. And astaxanthin, is created, the algae are green and they turn this beautiful color that's orangey red, and it's a carotenoid. And so the solution for us, and I empower everyone to look at high ORAC antioxidants. That's the oxygen radical absorption capacity, ORAC value. It's like the power of the antioxidant. So our bodies have evolved with the sun, and we are supposed to eat a high antioxidant diet. And people usually think berries. Well, incorporate berries. That's really wonderful. But when you look at the ORAC value, blueberries are about 10,000. You look at astaxanthin, and I'm talking about organic astaxanthin because there's a lot of petroleum-based, not high-frequency astaxanthin. It's over 2 million. So I look at that, I think, what? God, nature has given us the answer. And then also, so back in the day, we didn't have all these insults to our skin, to our body, creating all of this oxidative stress that's causing photoaging, causing DNA damage. So the key is, and I empower people to incorporate more antioxidants. So using antioxidants both topically and internally. And a lot of people think of berries, but I like to guide them back to spices because cloves are in the 370 plus thousand range of ORAC value. Cinnamon, so, chewing on some cloves every day. Cinnamon's also very high, up in I think it's 260,000 range. Oregano, and then cacao powder. So incorporating these into our diet every single day. I heard on one interview, you were saying you drank a mushroom drink in the morning, which I love to. I don't know if you still do that, but do you still do that?
Oh yeah. I'm drinking. I'm probably on my fourth one already today.
So then I encourage people, I say, well, add some raw cacao to it.
Oh yeah.
Start incorporating this because we need our shield. And so what happens when we have oxidative stress, from the sun and UV and infrared, our body takes those antioxidants and brings them to the surface of the skin. And then that is your reserve. That is your protection. And then I say, well, what am I going to use? I spent all this time in Costa Rica. I have a nature preserve there. I said, the sun is so strong there. I have to use something. And so that's what inspired. I said, I don't just create products to create products. When I agree, there's so many products out there. I really am very meticulous. And I worked with a PhD on my concentrated antioxidant serum using cloves and using organic astaxanthin. And then looking back, so I say I worked with a PhD, Elizabeth Plord, who wrote the book Sunscreen Biohazard. And I invite all of your audience, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of sunscreens and empowering your body and saying, okay, we evolved with the sun, we need to learn how to adapt, but not only the sun, the blue light. and all of the oxidative stresses that our body never had before. You know, we are at a real high state of oxidative stress that we're in. So Elizabeth Torrey wrote the book Sunscreen Biohazard, and I recommend everyone read that book.
I'm so glad you took it to the sunscreen thing, because and honestly, like, I'm going to state the obvious, because if you guys are not watching the YouTube version of this interview, you're just listening to the audio, but your skin is flawless. Like, I mean, most people would probably think like you cover, you know, keep yourself completely like preserved, like you know, just covered up all the time. So this is like, it's so just contrary to the advice that we see all the time, which is anti-aging. If you want the best barrier protection, you have to keep your skin out of the sun. And I, for one, I never wear sunscreen, and I'm always outside.
And I can tell by your tan. I mean, your tan, the melanin that our body produces is what protects us.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Like, it's just so incredible. Like, you know, our body is so smart, is so intelligent. I say, if the sun wasn't good for us, we would live on a dark planet.
Do you think that's such a good point? I'm wondering too, because I've seen like some stuff on social media surface about this, but people that burn, like they go out in the sun, and it's like they don't have an ability to tan. It's like their body just like gets crispy like within minutes. So like, what is going on? Is that like a genetic thing, or is that more of an epigenetic where it's maybe, I mean, what I was seeing was like a connection to seed oils, like in the diet and things like that, that like the inflammatory nature of some of these compounds that people are consuming that is reducing that antioxidant response and availability in the body. Is there a connection there, or have you seen, do you agree with that?
I believe so. Like, I have like darker pigment too, because my ancestors like native Indian. And so like, I get tan very easily. Now that is, and same with you. I can tell like olive, maybe like Italian background, but the fair skin, it's, you know, and I'm not saying people should suntan. You know, some people can't handle it, but I definitely believe our diet, we just do not have enough antioxidants. And because it's not only the sun, like I said, with the oxidative stress, the seed oils causing free radicals, you know, the blue light and just pollution and heavy metals. I mean, our body there is some kind of relation with heavy metals in the skin, and the skin wants to push things out. So I just invite everyone, topical antioxidants and internal antioxidants. And if your skin's very fair, you don't have that protection like you and I would with more melanin production. So you need to increase more. And 20 minutes a day is enough really to get your vitamin D that you need, and, you know, the endorphins, you know, it's so good for your, you know, your well-being to be in the sun. And you need that vitamin D. We really do. And if you don't have it, I mean, there's like hundreds of illnesses that are caused by lack of vitamin D. Yeah. So going back to your question, I think it's twofold. You know, some people with very fair skin, you know, obviously the genetic component, they don't have that melanin, which is protective to our skin. And so those people, you know, can't spend as much time in the sun, and they have to increase their antioxidants. And I say high ORAC, you know, study the ORAC values and just start incorporating cloves and cinnamon and cacao and astaxanthin. I was like, I pushed this interview to like June, because I was like, I have 3 new products out. I really want to be able to talk to them. Yeah. But certified organic, and certified organic products take a lot longer. Yeah. And so I couldn't find an astaxanthin. I was like, I have got to be taking astaxanthin every day. So I found the most high vibrational astaxanthin. They use spring water that babies can drink. And so I have a liquid astaxanthin coming out that I say, you know, take a teaspoon every day, you know, and it is going to come from inside out protecting you. And then I don't know if you tried the antioxidant serum.
Yeah, I did. In fact, some of my daughters that was the first one, because it's like, that's like the orange colored one that has the astaxanthin. Yeah. And so, yeah, so when I was all excited, I was like, oh, I get to try this. And of course, my kids were like, ooh, I want to try that serum. I want to try. But it is, I mean, it's beautiful. And it really is like nourishing to your skin. Like, I feel like it's not like the way that some serums feel kind of heavy, but this one kind of feels like your skin drinks it in, like it kind of hydrates it without it feeling like you're greasy. Like, yeah, you can tell it's, I don't know. I do really, really like it. And I have to keep hiding it.
You more. I do. I definitely want to, like, we need to send like a kit to each of your daughters. Well, not your little one, but
yes.
Yeah. I want them to feel special because, you know, Lindsay's daughter got some product and she sent this video and really, like, literally I cried. And I was like, you know what? I wish there was a Lux Beauty when I was her age. I think she's probably 13 because we don't want them to feel like they're compromising, you know? And I chose, I don't know if you saw the Lux toner, but it looks like perfume.
Yes, it does. It comes in the pretty pen. Oh, I'm telling you, it was better than Christmas Day. I mean, my kids were like because you use glass, which I love so much. So they're packaged so well. And like, you could just tell every single product has such intentionality from the ingredients to just the packaging, like the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, my kids, I was like, oh boy, I was like, I can just say goodbye to all of these because I know they're the worst. They raid my bathroom all the time. I'm like, where is my stuff? My brushes. I mean, everything. I know every mom that probably has teenage daughters probably feels the same thing, but I'm like, you guys, it's not a free for all. I go to, you know, it's just, I'm like, I guess my 12-year-old child will be more put together than their mother.
I've just seen so much online. And so some people say, oh, is it a perfume? And it was like, I collected perfume when I was a teenager. And that was one of the things I'm getting rid of all. Judge loved how pretty the bottles were. And I said, I'm going to make a toner, you know, that's really pretty and that like looks like perfume, but has zero synthetic fragrance in it. And, you know, I've given up on toners. I gave up on rose water. And I have this knack for finding, like, I find things that I like, you know, I've been looking for. And I was looking for, say, the rose hydrosol that Cleopatra used, because rose water has been revered as his beauty secret. But then when I went to go use a lot of this in plastic, and it just like did nothing. It was like putting water on my skin. And I just gave up on toners. So they have a lot of alcohol, which, you know, is not good for our skin, and glycerin. And so I went to the oldest rose farm in the world in Bulgaria, established in 1809. And it's a biodynamic farm growing all organically, hand-picked roses, no motorized vehicles, and copper distillation. And so I have to send you another one because, like, the more you use it, like, especially because I think you travel a lot, take it on the plane and every hour spritz yourself because, you know, we don't dilute it with any water. So you're getting it's like a vitamin drip for your skin. You're getting these vitamins, these antioxidants, because when you fly, you know, it's such an assault to your skin.
Yeah.
And so just use it every hour when you fly, and your skin's like so dewy and like glowy from this toner. And, you know, bearberry is very brightening. So just using, you know, 3 flowers is what I wanted, because that's like very high vibrational. And my intention with this product was all about centered around self-love. I think a lot of this, you know, especially you being a mom, you know, you're being pulled here, pulled there. And it's like, we have to center with ourselves, you know, and appreciate ourselves and like give us that love. And that, you know, and the intention when you use it is I love myself and I love my skin. And, you know, pink is like, you know, represents, you know, like love. And then the flower of, you know, love is the rose. And then I infused it with real rose quartz crystals.
Yeah.
So that's where the intention was all about love, loving ourselves, because the more we're in tune and love with ourselves, the more love we can put out to the world, which makes the world a better place.
Oh my gosh, I love that little story. Would have never known all of that behind that product, which is so cool. So I'm actually very curious what your application is with toners, because, you know, I don't know. I mean, I love some good products, but I should never probably do a tutorial on them because I'm just kind of, you know, I just kind of use things liberally whenever in no particular order. So what do you feel like is the best application? Because I'm curious for my own standpoint. Do you use a toner before a serum? Do you do it after you wash your face? I actually love the idea of using it on an airplane because I swear every time I fly, I'm like, I feel like I aged 10 years on the airplane. I go in the bathroom, you know, you're in the little lavatory, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my gosh, did I just like age 10 years? Like, it's like the air circulating in there and all the fumes and, you know, jet fuel, all that stuff. It just like sucks everything out of you. I'm like, oh gosh, this is bad.
So true. The EMFs alone. And so it's like, look, we have to fly. It's just part of, So for a toner, like every day after washing your face, and I do want to, like, again, this goes against what a lot of people say, is I recommend only washing your face at night. Okay. Because when we sleep, our skin makes beautiful anti-aging oils. It's all about rejuvenation. So I know, I just don't want you to wash those off. Get them on. Let your body work for you. And so, and then, we can go on a whole thing about cleansers, but, I'm very against like harsh acids or stripping the skin. When you use the 4-in-1, your skin like feels good afterwards. It doesn't feel stripped. And uses the philosophy of oil pulling, but much more sophisticated. And then we were talking about enzymes with my mom's cancer healing. Well, I love enzymes for exfoliation. Like I don't use acids, but papaya, pineapple. Yeah. And you got to use it as like twice a month. You leave it on and then all this dead skin comes off, like do your neck and everything. It's incredible in your skin. I did it actually right before this because I was like, why my skin popping? Yeah. And it's so dewy and glowy.
Yeah. It looks amazing. I know. Okay. So that's the secret.
Yeah. So you cleanse. And then, so I say after cleansing, use it morning and night. I use it as soon as I get up in the morning. Okay. And the other thing too, I was a track runner in college. I was on a D1 scholarship. And I think back, cause I always think what do I wish existed? You'd be working, running these cross country races and your skin was just sweaty and gross and you don't have time to shower. Well, I invite girls, runners, when you're working out, take that and spritz it on your face. Yeah. If using wipes you don't want to use on your skin, those are just too harsh ingredients, stripping the microbiome, just really not good. So after working out on the plane, keep it near your desk. Just the more you use it, the more you're like, this is vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, feeding your skin.
That's such good advice. That's actually what I got my daughters on. I was like, just use this toner. This is a great place for you to start. You're going to, they just, like I said, if for them, it's like a hobby. They just want to play around with it. And I'm like, okay.
It's fun. It's like playing dress up, there's nothing about it that we really love. But again, nowadays they're just exposed to so much of people that are way older than them doing this. It's like, you don't need makeup. You don't need anything, but they don't understand. And they also don't understand that toxins accumulate in our body. And it's not just you're getting one every day. I mean, we are just exposed to thousands of chemicals and they don't understand their endocrine system. And they don't understand that all of that stuff adds up. And our body, because it's so much, our body can't get rid of it. If we only had a little bit amount.
It's so true. My kids would be laughing right now because anytime they're with their friends and they get in the car and they smell like Bath and Body Works, I'm like, okay, who is what? I mean, and I straight up call them because their friends know me very well. And they all know, they're like, Miss Courtney does not do fragrance. I'm like, don't bring it in my house. You could come have a sleepover. We are not doing that. Y'all know better. And so they're so funny because Ella's my oldest daughter, she's 12, and she was like, oh my gosh, my mom is so embarrassing. She's like, she shames everybody for all their stuff. I'm like, listen, I got plenty of stuff you guys can use, but I'm going to need to hose you off in the front yard of all the chemicals you have on your body because my whole house is going to smell like, plumeria from Bath and Body Works. I just can't, I can't,
the thing is, they're not water soluble. These are VOCs, volatile organic compounds, phthalates that, when someone goes in an elevator and they leave and the smell's still there.
Yes.
Those, I mean, you don't even need a chemistry lab to know if it's toxic. If it's staying there and prolonging, and that's why it's interesting. I love using organic jasmine because I want to smell pretty. I admit I am like your girls. But now I know better, so I won't use those perfumes, but I still want to feel pretty and feminine. And, when I was trying to find organic products, they all smell so stale or, hippie-ish, and nothing wrong with hippies, but I like pretty smelling things. So one of the ingredients that I use is organic jasmine. And I know you're really into essential oils and how they can affect our mood. And when the whole idea of choosing Lux is because it's all about a positive sensory experience. So when you use the products like organic jasmine, I have it in 2 of my products, and in another one that's coming out of body serum, it actually can stimulate your GABA neurotransmitters to uplift your mood. So I say when you have using that antioxidant serum, and the other thing about jasmine is like smell it, take it in like aromatherapy, and we're all under so much stress. And so use the products to like center you, calm you, lift your spirit. And another reason why I use jasmine in my products is when I like to go back in time and see before all this marketing crazy in the industry of beauty, like what did the Egyptians use for sun protection? Well, they used jasmine.
Oh.
So that is, purposely why I put it in, because it stimulates our GABA neurotransmitter, because it has sun protecting properties. They also use gamma organzanol, which is from Rice Brand. And so, looking back in time, really inspires me to be like, wow, like they did what they were doing then. They didn't have a lab analysis to test anything, but it stood this, the time of like, oh, this works,
Yeah.
And
that's incredible. I would never have known that. And I mean, I love oils. I mean, I've always like diffusing them and, but it just like, to me, it really just proves the test of how effective plants are. Like there's so many, like we think, maybe it works on one pathway to do one thing, but they're not. They carry all these different compounds that work on so many different things. So while something like jasmine might be helping your skin barrier defend against damaging UV rays, it's also at the same time stimulating the brain to, put on the pumps on the stress system. So it's like the only thing that could do that is the intelligence of nature. And so that to me is so beautiful, because when you start incorporating them in your life, whether it's using essential oils or different products or whatever it is, when they're sourced really well and you're getting like something that isn't adulterated in nature, like it covers a multitude of things in your body, not just one. And I think that's where we all get overwhelmed, because we're like, okay, we've got to do this one thing for this thing and one thing. And I'm like, if you just have a little bit of diversity of some really high quality, like herb extracts or whatever it might be, it's like they do so much. Like it builds on so many different levels. So I love that even a conversation about skincare, it's like, look at the other benefits that it's doing for your body.
Like, I'm just so excited. Like, how can I support your lymphatic system? It is so much part of our detox system. So speaking of herbs and plants, we made a proprietary herbal blend of herbs for your lymphatic system. And so like it's, I took the best herbs for, supporting lymphatic system and then putting them in a deodorant. I mean, it's interesting when people start with products, they usually start with toothpaste and deodorant. And I was able to find the toothpaste that I liked, but switching out deodorant, I was like, I don't like any deodorant. So I just use actually the magnesium chloride. I spray it and then a little bit of my rose toner. But then I was like, no, I want an upgraded deodorant. So many people ask me. So I formulated a deodorant that's centered around detoxing, has the lymphatic herbal blend, zeolite, and all of these like just very medicinal and holistic, because under each underarm, we have about 20 lymph nodes. So the last thing that I want to put under there, obviously aluminum, people have moved past that, but I still question zinc oxide because that can be processed with aluminum. Also, baking soda could have some aluminum in it, so you have to use a certified aluminum-free baking soda. So these are, I mean, you could tell I'm very obsessed, like the depths that I go of like looking at everything has to be wellness driven, and using our skin to deliver herbs is like such a way that I love. And so I'm using it in a body serum. I love ashwagandha oil. People take it internally for stress, but I found an organic ashwagandha oil. So using a body serum that's very de-stressing, but also supporting our lymphatic system.
That I'm actually so interested in that too, because that's where I see, again, like it's the drainage system of the body. So when we're talking about toxins, it's like, okay, many of us can do a lot on our own to prevent, just based on our choices that we're making of what we're bringing in our homes, to prevent the exposure. But there are also a lot of things that we can't prevent exposures to. And you're really left to the resources and the equipment that your body has. So you want to make sure that you're stimulating and helping to build up the resiliency of those organs, especially the drainage and detox, because it's the getting out of the toxins that a lot of people can find kind of the sticking point. And once that gets compromised, then it's just a matter of time, because those exposures build, and all of a sudden now you've got overwhelm, and the liver gets overwhelmed, everything else starts to back up, and then you start to see the symptoms, and people start getting brain fogged, and they're fatigued, and their joints hurt, and the list goes on, but it doesn't come, it's very rare that a doctor is going to say, oh, okay, well, we need to work on the lymphatic system. So I think that that's we've had a few experts that have come in and talked about it, and they'll even say, like, lymphatics are so important. And it's something that even stimulating drainage and things like that, are so helpful for people to be educated on, because it's a daily routine of being able to do some of these things to support our body, so that the toxins we are exposed to that we're unaware of really have a way of getting out, so that we're not building up that body burden.
Right. Exactly. And then getting rid of the blockages and, blood flow. Well, our body needs the blood flow, lymph flow, blood flow, like that is all, is hand in hand with skin health. And so again, really supporting our liver. It's interesting because when I go back, like thinking of my 20s, when I went to a dermatologist, it was like, okay, I can put you on birth control, antibiotics, Accutane, retinol, these things. That's like, okay, well, a doctor told me I should do that. That's what I'll do. And so a lot of people, will do that, but then they're not realizing, well, what are the long-term effects? I always say our skin can be a mirror to what is going on inside.
Yeah.
And like, I love looking at the Chinese face map. Have you ever done that? Where like, yes, it's like hormonal.
Yeah.
We have stomach, large intestines, liver, adrenals.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Our skin talks to us so much. I was exposed to toxic mold a few years ago, and I, for the first time, got puffing under my eyes. It got dark under my eyes. So people say, do you have an eye cream? Well, you can use my night cream, and you can use the anti-aging serum. But I say, if you are having puffiness, dark under your eyes, please consult a holistic integrative practitioner that can get to the bottom of, say the lymph flow, or where are your detox organs, where do they need support?
Yeah.
Because the body's telling you, showing up with those dark circles. I mean, and I've seen kids with dark circles. It's not like it's an age-related thing.
You're so right. I've seen a few kids too, and I'm just thinking like, oh my goodness, like we got to work on, we need to work on your liver, we need to work on your gallbladder, and even like nutrient deficiencies and stuff too. You could just see it, right? Like you said, the skin is such an outward facing representation of deeper things going on inside. And so the more we could just look at it, not from the point of vanity, even like obviously many of us are like, okay, we just want the anti-aging, no more crow's feet, like but from the standpoint of like, what's my body like telling me based on what it looks like? Because like you said, I mean, a lot of people, even I've been exposed to mold too. And it does a number on your body. I mean, it's like, and and knowing when to be able to work with somebody too, because it's so much deeper than just like taking a few supplements. Like for many people, it's a much longer process. And there's so much that your body will respond well to. It just needs guidance in a lot of ways. But as you said, like it's so important. I think you can even be look at pictures. Like that's kind of what I've looked at too. Because season to season, your skin tone will change based on seasons of being out in the sun and exposures and stuff. Yeah. But I can tell seasons of stress based on pictures, like when there was not as much sleep and recovery, when there was a move or a baby or whatever. I mean, you can see the body, the wear of the stress. I mean, people that I have known that have gone through like really challenging seasons, it's almost like, if I don't see them and then I see them a few months later, like whether in that or on the other side of that, their face and their body are wearing the stress of that. I mean, and it's like, not even to say that in a bad way, but it's like, that's how much it affects like everything, emotional stress, like all these things compound. And so that's like a multifaceted approach to supporting yourself. But all that to say, use like what the feedback that your body's giving you. I love the face map. We'll actually link that in the show notes because Dr. Motley is like brilliant with all of that, facial mapping, tongue mapping, all of that. But it can help you start to look for characteristics, especially if they're hormonal in nature, because you'll start to see the patterns if you're a female, like month to month during your cycle, where you tend to have the breakouts. And then you'll be able to know which organ system to support. So you can nourish that with certain herbs, with certain nutrients, with certain food groups. And that makes a world of a difference. Like even just staying away from certain foods and then just bringing in some additional antioxidant support or herbs that stimulate the liver. It can take you from having like the worst hormonal outbreaks to having beautiful skin. So
it does. And I say too, like for mold, like and I love that you're into colon cleansing. When you have these neurotoxins, these like toxins in your body, you have to get them out because they just will ruin so many systems. People will be diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but one of the symptoms for me was joint pain. And like you said, just taking supplements just may not be enough. Ozone therapy can be really beneficial, but everyone's body is different. And so you really have to work with a practitioner that really understands how to read your body as far as how your body's responding, instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to take all these supplements, I'm going to get better. But that's not always the case. But our skin tells us, our skin is so intelligent and we can use it. Like the face mapping is so incredible, but like rashes too. I mean, people get psoriasis or eczema and they just want to put on something like a steroid cream, which can lead to thinning of the skin and then discoloration. And then those are really hard to fix. So I think the skin is inviting you to say, maybe there's some candida overgrowth, a microbial imbalance. I mean, we have 70 to 90% bacterial cells in our body. Like we are a living microorganism and it's, strengthening the good bacteria, and having sometimes to do colon cleansing to really have the exits open, that we are getting rid of what no longer serves our body for optimal health.
Yep. Oh, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think that's every bit of that stands true. And I know most of our listeners too would agree that, it really does take, sometimes a little bit of trial and error to find out what your body's going to respond to. And sometimes it's a progression because as you build your baseline of functionality, you can take a little bit more detox, but I really do agree. I mean, when I was in a moldy house for a while, I had to do, several rounds of a series of colonics and then doing enemas and things like that. I mean, and it totally changed the game for me, but it took several months, and you just can't overwhelm the system. You can only take so much. So you kind of have to just press the gas down a little bit, see if the body if that's enough. And then if you feel okay, or you feel like you're improving, then you can take it a little bit further or do another one. But some people, they may have to go really slow because their body just cannot they can't get a lot out at once. So you just have to take baby steps. But I think, again, like making choices to use products in your home that are not going to be toxic is going to be like the easiest thing to implement, because you're having to buy things anyway. You're using products. Just make sure you're not using ones that are going to be creating more harm than good. And then beyond that, just start doing the digging of figuring out what is the biggest piece of my health puzzle that needs to be worked on. Because generally, if you can get that thing taken care of, all the small stuff starts to fix itself. You just bring the big thing into alignment, and then all of like the little hormone things start to get better. But again, it's everything affects everything. It's a kind of a domino. And I know in natural health, this is the conversation. Root cause is always not just one thing. It's one thing affecting many things.
Yeah. And being gentle with the body too. Like we were talking about mold, but then also too, mold loves heavy metals. And, they take years to lodge, say, in the thyroid or whatever. So that can take time, and you have to be very gentle with the body. But I always tell people, remember, your body is on your side. Your body wants you to thrive. And so we just have to create that space. And like, that's what I had to do with my mom, I had to create that space for her, and was like, then I learned so much from her, and that became part of me. But it was like, your body has got this. You know, we just have to flood it with everything that we know and everything. And again, and that can be overwhelming too, because people say like, you know, Laetrile B17, you know, take that. And there's like, I mean, she did take that. So, I mean, it's like, you know, 50 different things that protocols that she was on. And so you really, something like that stage for cancer, you have to really go full force and say, but, you know, like I always, you know, Lux Beauty is like that beacon of light. And I don't share my mom's story to be like, oh, I needed a story to create my business because I've seen businesses that do that. Absolutely not. The beauty industry is difficult. And, you know, I'm 100% woman owned. It is not an easy thing when you're, you know, up against, you know, billion-dollar businesses, and they can spend a ton on marketing. But just understanding that, you know, I want Lux Beauty to be that, just that light for people that are going through a difficult time, to understand that you can get through this. And, you know, a dire diagnosis does not have to be your fate. And don't let, you know, doctors going to disempower you. We have the power, you know, your body's your vessel, your soul, you know, you can heal it.
Yeah. So good. Oh, I love this conversation. And I've been curious about this the whole interview. So I have to ask it because I personally would love to know, because you're obviously just radiant, beautiful inside and out. And I want to know what your nutrition looks like. Like, what is your diet primarily? Because I know what you're doing, you know, skincare, but obviously the skin, a lot of it comes from within. So what do you prioritize for meals to maintain your skin looking as amazing as it does outside of your products?
Thank you. Oh yeah. And I love that you brought that up, because I'm never going to say, oh, my products do it all. No. Okay. I'm one of those people that has a small bucket, because, you know, actually before the mold exposure, I was pretty resilient. I was a competitive runner. Like I could handle a lot of stress, whatever. But yeah, so I have a small bucket, and I'm very sensitive to synthetic smells, and I drive people crazy because I have like a nose like a hound, and it's like, Jane, I don't even smell that. I'm like, oh God, that's horrible. Like I'm like dying over here with a headache. But again, it's our body communicating with us. So yeah, I always say, look, it's twofold. You have to use products that are nourishing, strengthen the skin barrier, high vibrational, organic. So all organic. I mean, I think water is really important, Mountain Valley spring water. And I want to say, I don't always do this, but it's like spending time in natural springs, like in Costa Rica, my friend, and I want to talk this because eating and water is very important. So I'm not getting off topic here, but if you've ever, you know, washed your face in spring water, it's like night and day versus using this, like, you know, hopefully you have a you know, filter in your home. But like the hair and the skin responds to high quality water with minerals. So like when we make our products, you know, it's some companies, I don't even know if they use purified water. So I would say like hydrating. I also have here, I was like the herbs that I want to do a video on this because I really, again, want to empower people. It's not just skincare. How can you incorporate the herbs into your daily life? So for me, I make a cinnamon. It's so delicious. I've got to give you the recipe. So I take organic cinnamon sticks, cloves, and like just all these great and like hibiscus flowers, and drinking that tea. And it's so delicious. I don't eat processed sugar. Just for me, my body doesn't do well with it. I used to be able to really handle it, but I think once I got the mold exposure, my body just became more sensitive to sugar. But I'm really a proponent of fruit. I think fruit has sacred water that, like, you know, nothing else has. I'm not vegan. I was vegan for 7 years, and I did a blood analysis by an amazing doctor. And it was like seeing ratios that no one would ever look at. It's like, my cells were so depleted. My hair wasn't growing. Like, I just thought that was the way, but I had no way to look inside my cells.
Yeah.
And, so I don't follow completely the blood type diet, but I know for me, I could eat, you know, I'll be a grass fed, a big bison fan, and I could like eat that and go running and feel incredible. Now, if I ate a bowl of oatmeal and went running, I'll feel so bloated and just like, you know, I don't feel out. So, you know, fruits and vegetables, organic, 100% organic. Try to, you know, incorporate herbs and spices as much as you can. But I just, you know, diet is so much. I mean, our skin talks to us, and, you know, some people I don't tolerate dairy very well. So for me, that's kind of the inflammatory place for me. And, everyone's different. And I think it's important to find out what foods really are like fueling your body, charging your cells versus like depleting your energy. And, and I love sea moss actually. But I recommend making your own.
Oh,
yeah. And so because the sea moss you can buy in the store, sea moss just isn't stable. I mean, 7 days, it's moldy. And so people, and I want to say too, sea moss should not taste yucky.
okay.
Often if you buy it and it's like pre-made and it's like, and I don't want to, there's a store in LA where they sell sea moss. And I was like, oh my gosh, this tastes so bad. It's because they're not washing it enough. When you make your own sea moss at home, you need to wash it about 5 times and using lime. And I say sea moss because I've tried a lot of minerals, but I see like in our body is 78% water. So for me, my body seems to assimilate minerals from the sea better than say minerals from rocks.
Oh, okay.
So I know sea moss is one of the things that again, but
Where do you get the sea moss?
yeah, so there's St. Lucia has really clean waters.
Okay.
And so I just buy like a pack. I want to actually kind of come out with the Lux Beauty sea moss because I'm always about like, can you really trust like the source of this? And so it's like organic, whatever. And I was like, I really want to go to St. Lucia and like find my own.
If you have a recipe for that, I would love to put that in the show notes, like with maybe your source of where you're getting it now, because I am interested to try that myself. But we may have some listeners too that are, maybe have tried another sea moss or, would be interested in kind of exploring that too. So we'll put that for you guys in the notes, but that's so interesting.
Yeah. And making the herbal tea, like the cinnamon sticks. Oh my gosh. You have to be very, and I want to say this about spices is that, grow your own, and actually dried herbs have more ORAC value than the fresh. So dry them if you can, grow as many herbs as you can and then dry them. But like making that tea, and I want to say if you do buy spices, buy from like Frontier Co-op, because spices and cinnamon, all this stuff could be radiated and treated with ethylene oxide. And these things that's like, okay, here's a great spice, a great herb. And then it's just been like completely killed.
Yeah.
And so just buying herbs, like, from someone that is growing organically, but like making that tea that I mentioned, and it's so delicious. Cinnamon tea with the hibiscus and everything is, wow, it's so good.
That's a good combination, cinnamon and hibiscus. I wouldn't have put those two together, but I do love cinnamon. And I definitely in the fall, I feel like everybody loves cinnamon in the fall because it just smells so good.
Oh yeah. And then like I add it on my mushroom drink, like, add it into your mushroom drink when you're eating like fruits, like sprinkle it on, like again, trying to incorporate as often as you can. Again, it's great for, blood sugar regulation, which also helps our skin because we don't want a spike in blood sugar. But yeah, sprinkle it in like anything, your smoothies. When I'm making smoothies, I always add like a copious amount of cinnamon.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try that next time because I do love cinnamon. So, these are great. These are great little tips and pearls because I always like trying new things in the kitchen, and I get very boring with my regimen. I feel like I kind of get stuck on the same thing. So it's encouraging to hear what other people are doing, and whatever you're doing is clearly working. So sign me up for that program.
Well, I mean, I just, you too, you look amazing. And you have 3, kids. And so that takes away, it's being a parent, being a mom is the most important job, and it's the most stressful. You have these little beings you have to take care of, and it just can pull you in so many directions. So self-care really can get neglected. Because you look amazing, and whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And I just, I like adore you. I said I've been like stalking your Instagram page.
Aww.
She speaks my language. Like, Lindsay, I love her.
Oh, well, same. You're just like radiant. It just comes off of you. I'm so grateful we've had this conversation. I know we have so many links, so many resources for our listeners that we'll put out in the show notes, but let us know where people can access your products, because I know you have a few new ones. And if they're wanting to try any of the skincare, I want to make sure that we talk about that and cover that.
Yeah. So luxebeauty.com, Luxe beauty.com is, I would say, the number one. I do sell on Amazon, but that's like, they take a huge percentage and it's just, I don't know. I really love to support independent and not support mega corporations. So luxebeauty.com. I'm going to send you samples before they launch, but I have a detox deodorant. I have a body serum, USD organic, and then the organic astaxanthin. I encourage everyone be taking astaxanthin every day. It's so good for hormonal health and protecting our cells. One other tidbit, because I'm such a nerd when it comes to astaxanthin, is that it's unlike any other molecule because it can go from one end of the cell to the other, because it's hydrophobic and hydrophilic, meaning water loving and fat loving. Where, like, for instance, vitamin E is only fat loving or vitamin C is only water loving. So it's so miraculous what it can do for our cells on a cellular level. So, and 6,000 times more potent than vitamin C. I'm not saying don't take vitamin C, that's important, but incorporating these high ORAC things into our life internally and topically is just amazing. And that's what we have to do, because we're in a world that's so full of these stressors.
Gosh, you're right. You're right. That is super helpful advice too. And I fully agree with that too. I love astaxanthin. I think taking it for more than just beauty reasons has so many benefits to your health. So I love that you've highlighted that. I love that you really discovered that, but you see the significance in incorporating it because you realize kind of it's a heavy hitter. Like, there's so many things that you could be taking, but I'm like, okay, give me like the most potent of, so I'm not taking 75 supplements and have a skincare regimen that has like, a 27-step process, because I don't have time for that. And certainly don't have the budget.
Get the most for your money. And we have to what are the essentials? We don't have time to take that. It's very expensive. And a lot of times they're not really doing anything. But astaxanthin is just loved by ourselves. And like I said, you said before, looking at nature's intelligence and saying, wow, they figured this out already. We don't need to use humans. Nature's figured it out. If algae does not make astaxanthin, it dies. And so it's nature's sunscreen, and that we just have to learn from nature.
Guys, if you're listening, I know you probably took away so much. I can vouch for everything that Jane does in terms of educating her audience, educating her customers, but also being the brains behind the formulations and it all having real significant purpose. Everything is intentional. So I love that. If you guys are looking for her, hit up the show notes so you can access everything. Jane, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I'm thrilled to keep following all of the endeavors that you have because I see so much. You've already done so much, but I see all the best is ahead of you. And so I'm excited to watch it all unfold.
I appreciate your support so much. And we have to get gifts too. I want to send gifts to your daughters and you. So they have their own box. You have your own box. Now, again, I don't push products on girls. They don't need them. But we know I don't want them to think, Mom, you're so mean. My friends can use all these products. They can use a little, a face wash and the toner and some lip balms. It's just part of our world now.
I know it is.
I want them to feel special.
Oh, you're so sweet. I mean, that would be the highlight of their year, because that is their love language right now is all of that. Because again, it's they just have so much fun with it. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have to just find the good stuff so that we're not using, garbage. I hope that you guys have a blessed week, and we will see you on the next episode.